Good morning, everyone. This is Shivai Swami. I manage the business for Nippon, which is a workplace analytics solution by HCL Software. And I welcome you all in an insightful session today, which is revolving around the transformation of modern workplace. And the topic is leveraging data analytics to boost employee productivity. Joining us today is Vijay Sivaram, CEO for Quest IT Staffing. Vijay has been with Quest Corp since its inception in 2007. And I would request Vijay to give a quick introduction to the group.
Hey, thank you, Shivai. It's always a pleasure to be here. So part of the founding team here at Quest, we started Quest in 2007. Our organization circles and revolves around multiple platforms. But one thing that we are known for is our ability to engage and manage talent. We recently crossed 547,000 employees. We are the larger employers of the country. So for us, I think anything to do with human talent, its productivity and its outcome becomes core to what we do. And I think it's an absolute pleasure to see how technology has evolved to help ensure that each of those elements get better every day. So really happy to be here, Shivai.
Thanks, Vijay, for the introduction. So the format here is, Vijay, will go simple. So in a world wherein the data is the key, right? So we talk about the way the organizations are shifting to this approach from the traditional approach of not using the data. So we are talking about, with the changing world, right? It's not limited to one particular area, but the way the organizations has been using it to different area of sales, marketing, finance and everywhere. So let's get into some questions, we have, kind of framed for the group. So one is, Vijay, considering the vast potential of data analytics, how do you see these technologies reshaping our traditional approach to employee productivity? That's one. And there's a lot of discussions going on around the long working hours, right? Wherein, some say that it should be 50 hours, 70 hours. So what are your thoughts on that?
That is a little controversial to start with, Shivai. But anyway, I just like to touch upon the first point that you brought about being in that kind of a VUCA world today, right? The last 5 years has been an extremely, very, very uncertain. You had a pre-COVID era, we've had a COVID era, we've had a post-COVID era. We have two wars that are happening as we speak. We've had ChatGPT and generative AI hitting the market and changing the way we think about what jobs can be done better. So in the last 5 years, there is so much of elements that have changed the way we think about work and how do we do better. And I think that has become the premise for all organizations today to see how can you do something better with lesser, right? Mm-hmm. And I think to your first point, without a doubt, I think we will continue to stay in uncertain moments and certainty will become very rare to have. But organizations that thrive and they will do well will be those who are able to quickly change, adapt and be agile, right? And stay with the momentum that they're creating. Because if you stay too constrained to the ways of work that you did earlier, it may not be the right thing to do. And so to your point of working hours of humans or working hours of employees, etc., it's really a function of what is expected from that human or that individual, right? Working hours for me personally is something not linked to outcomes necessarily. I think for me, it's very important that every human or every candidate or employee is clear about what they need to achieve for the organization. And that's really where it boils down to the core of productivity. Because as we enter the years to come, what will change is how much more are you contributing to your organization every single day or every single hour. And that boils down to what is the organization expecting from you, and at the same time, what is the employee expecting from the organization. And that becomes a defining moment of how many hours one should put to achieve that common goal. Because if at the very base level itself, Shiva, if you have an employee working on one direction and the organization interest is in another direction, basic math will say it will not be reached. And then you put 70 hours, 200 hours, 400 hours also, it's not going to be relevant. I think what is important is matching that employee expectation to the company's expectation and then defining that into something that can be measured.
Yeah. And where do you keep, because with this note, right, which as you mentioned, the employee is a key here. So how does the work-life balance see with this debate going on? We have seen that work-life balance also plays an important role. So where do you see the employee view about it?
So I've always believed that work-life balance is a function of how well you enjoy your job, right? So the more you enjoy your job, the more you link it to the impact that you create at work, etc. Work-life balance will automatically happen, because then you will have a ability to choose what is best for you in a given day. It is not about that you spend X amount of hours at home or X amount of hours. I have known people who stay at home all day, work from home, but they are not with their family. They are in their phones. They're checking their TV. They're watching Netflix. So that's not necessarily work-life balance. And I think for me personally, it's about ensuring that you give the best that you can give to both your family and to your organization the way they need it again, right? So I think, but as we enter in the world of multi-generational diversity, where in an organization you have different generations working at the same time, it becomes a point where how do you identify what is work-life balance for them?
Basis this, right, based the employee perspective, what you mentioned. So how does the employee well-being is gaining a lot of prominence nowadays? So can you share a lot of insights around the organizations against Quest Corp? How are you dealing with that to create a supporting work environment, promoting both wellness and against the productivity and efficiency?
Oh, absolutely. I think today, I strongly believe in any ecosystem, whether it's Quest or it's an organization of a client of ours, etc. See, when in the old ecosystem, when you hire an individual, you hire it at a person level. You hire individually, right? Each person gets hired. Even at an exit level, you exit at an individual level. But over the last decades or so, employee engagement and employee well-being becomes a generic statement driven by the function, right? But if you see in the last 2-3 years, what has evolved in this whole piece is that now even the employee engagement is going at an individual level, because the employee's expectation is becoming unique to him or her individually as well. So for example, learning journeys. If someone has a learning journey, there are some learning skills that you would need as an organization, say communication skills, that can be standardized. But for that individual, there will be a specific learning journey that you need to craft. So today, many organizations, including Quest Corp and many other clients of ours, we have seen that today employee experience is becoming an individually crafted benefit. And insurance is crafted to that individual. Benefits are crafted. My interest would be maybe having access to loan ecosystems. A colleague's interest would be having access to educational ecosystems. Somebody else would be interested in shopping. So it's very different today at an individual level, and therefore I think the sense of belongingness today in a company becomes very crucial as to how you engage with that individual and not a generic format of an engagement. That's number one. Number two, I mentioned that in my earlier response about employee expectations, etc. I think while I'm at Quest, I've been here from the day one, from 16 years now. One of the key things that we've always done is try and understand how will an individual's career path be defined in Quest. It is not a 1-year journey or a 6-month journey, but how do you define that individual's career journey in Quest? Because we have so many multiple lines of business, we should always explore whether this person can do a better job with his skills or her skills that they have as such. So defining career journeys become very, very important. The third part, and I think where you are seeing increased attention, is how are you mapping your skills to productive levels of the organization? And I'm going back to the point that productivity becomes a core requirement in every organization, and that becomes a yardstick. So in earlier days, we used to call it KRA, KPI, etc. Today, it is at a unit metric level as to what the person is going to contribute every single minute or hour of the day. And that becomes, and if you don't define that, it again hampers the career journey, the learning journey, and the individual journey. So therefore, it's also a byproduct of how you define what is expected. A sales guy is different, a finance person is different, a tech person is different. So how do you define that? So if you see the whole concept of GCCs in India today, what was a cost center a decade back? Today, the Indian engineer is defining products for the world to use.
Yeah.
So it's become transformation centers, right? Or capability centers. And that has happened because these organizations have defined their paths on saying, okay, now we'll create products. We will define new ecosystems. We'll create new platforms. And that's the whole belongingness that an employee will enjoy, because they want that attention. They want to know how their career is going to be. And they are not as patient as earlier. Somebody would work for 30 years in a company. So you have to keep them engaged.
Yeah. And the good point you made, Vijay, because the way you are managing a workforce by seeing their career path. I have a follow-up question here. So see, when you talk about the career path, and a lot of upskilling discussions are going on, right? So where do you just see the skill gap, right? Wherein the teams are upskilling, they're mapped to the right projects or to the right teams. So what are your thoughts on skill gap, and how is QuestCorp kind of managing that?
Wonderful question. I think, Shivay, I think if you really go to every single organization today, particularly in the tech world or in the companies that are transitioning to being a tech-led organization, one of the biggest challenges they face is keeping up with the skill changes. I'll give you a simple example, and I keep using this example here and there. 20 years ago, when you hired a software engineer, the title was called software engineer. 10 years ago, when software engineer was being hired, they called him software developer. Yeah. Today, the same role is being hired as a full stack developer. So what has happened is that a role has become a skill. So today, organizations are hiring for skills and not hiring for roles. It doesn't matter if he's or she is an assistant manager, the skill has taken premise for them to be attractive to be hired, right? And therefore, when you become a skill-centric organization, it is very important to stay ahead of the curve in the skills as skills change. And skills are changing very fast. So you have to be adaptive. So that comes with three ecosystems. One is the academic ecosystem, which is your institutes, colleges, etc. Then there is the corporate ecosystem, which is investing in the well-being of the employee to keep themselves updated. And then there is the individual ecosystem, the employee himself or herself, who is personally trying to become better and learn more, right? So for the college ecosystem, yes, there will always be a little bit of a lag because there are rules and governance systems which they have to keep up with. But I can tell you, India has come far ahead in that curve. 10 years ago, if you had asked me the gap between what is being taught and what is happening on the ground, I would have said it was a very big gap. But today the gap has become much smaller. Educational institutes have really upped their game in terms of keeping up with the trends. The second part, which is the corporate ecosystem today, every single company, like I mentioned earlier, has created an education system or an edutech system, LMS system in the company to help employees stay course on their learning journey. The third one is a tricky one. The third one, where the individual or the employee himself or herself wants to upskill themselves based on their interests. Like I see many salespeople who want to learn about analytics and data science. So they pick up a course. And the courses are very easily accessible today, which is a great thing because of the advent of edutech. But also there is an interest or a career coaching that is required for that individual to say, okay, this is what I want to learn. Is it going to help me? Is it going to help me and the organization? And that's, I think, a very unique journey to that human. So one of the challenges they face in that, companies face in that, is when an employee has worked in a particular role for maybe 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, and we have all of our companies, we have that. They think that their way of working is the right way of working. And for them to change and start doing something new becomes a little bit of a change management issue. And many organizations today are facing that problem where they are not able to get their middle management layer pivot to a new form of thinking as fast as how the leadership is pivoting and the junior people are pivoting. The middle management layer somewhere gets into a rut of saying, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years, I would like to continue doing it this way. And that makes the difference between how fast a company can change direction or not.
Yeah. And it's required as well, Vijay. I'll share our experience of HCL Tech, the way we have been using the skill gap, right, by using our analytics engine to identify the resources, to make them, to enable them to work in a more efficient way rather than kind of, to help them with certain database decision. Maybe some employees are not mapped to the right projects. We just see the skill gap and see whether they are, to make a project much more leaner also it is required. So on one more thing you touched on is the change management, Vijay, right? So I have a question for you there. So when you talk about data-driven decisions, right? So how is Quest Corp using or helping or using the change management strategies when you are adapting the data-driven decisions? So it is not limited to one area, one stakeholders, but I think different stakeholders are using it. So do you have any change management strategies around it? If you can throw some.
Oh, absolutely. It's a must. It's not about the size of the organization anymore, Shiva. It's about how well you can transition to anything that's new and relevant. So at Quest, there are 2-3 parts to it. One, every direction that we take and we invest in is basis data that we have got through our system. So everything, you see, when you manage 550,000 employees approximately, you cannot manage it without tech. And as you invest in tech to manage them, you start receiving data. And that allows you to identify, can you build an tech system that will enable a job? Can you build a tech system that will make a person do a better job, an efficient job? Or can you disrupt something to automate an entire process, right? So you can be an enabler or create more efficiency or disrupt. So we take a very deep look as to every tech that we invest in. How does it impact the job? How does it impact the company? Because if you try to do everything to disrupt the organization, you will fail. You cannot do that. There are some tech tools which are only enablers, which will help you get something faster or try to solve a problem which was becoming a bottleneck. Then there are the efficient creators, where you create a tool which will help you do works better. So the same person who's doing a productivity of 2 can now do 2.5, right?
Yeah.
And that creates further outcome with no additional cost involvement. The third one is a disruptor, where you're saying, okay, I may not, like today, ChatGPT allows you to have contextual conversations. Can a chatbot which we had put become a ChatGPT chatbot? And therefore, can it be more conversational? So I think those are disruptors. So we depend a lot on the tech and the data that it throws out. And once the data throws out, the second thing which is very important is the sponsorship. Who is going to run it? Who's going to lead it? And is the senior leadership behind this tool? I think at Quest, that is something which we believe very strongly in, is to make sure that the senior leadership and the core people who are going to be involved have understood why we are doing it and what is the expected outcome from it. Many times we have also failed, but other organizations have seen fail, where the communication charter does not happen well. And that becomes a hindrance to change management later. So I think sponsorship and change management go hand in hand in terms of ensuring that the job gets done. The third one, which is most relevant, is, are we creating a ecosystem for people to change? In some cases, you might have to incentivize. In some cases, you might have to recognize. In some cases, you might have to provide the ecosystem, the tech ecosystem or the people ecosystem to support the process in the initial days. So understanding all that becomes very integral for the change management. At Quest, we check these 3 boxes always to ensure that, so we don't just turn off the key and try to start another car. It's a process that you have to do. The timeline of the process can be short, long, depending on the type of the change.
So with all these disruptions happening around the organizations, and they are, Vijay, but as a follow-up, right? And we have seen this kind of discussions happening in the last 18 to 2 years, right? Before COVID, there was not much of discussions around efficiency and productivity. So what do you think? What changed pre-COVID and post-COVID that the discussions are a lot of going on around the efficiency, productivity, when you talk about knowledge workers, standpoint?
I think, in my perspective, hybrid has played a very key role in trying to measure performance, and hence productivity became a very key element to understand if an employee were to work at home, at work, or anywhere else. The technology industry, for example, for many years have been talking about utilization rates, right? And it's been, but today, as technology is getting more and more into organizations in different forms, utilization rates have become a function of productivity, and therefore it's not about whether the resource is just utilized, but is that person able to contribute back to the company? And therefore, post-COVID, as hybrid took center stage, productivity became the name of the game to ensure that people and employees are contributing to the organization as such. That's the main reason in my perspective. Secondary, I think tech has become a huge enabler. So when a company is investing in a tech product, they want to see an ROI. So, for example, training. When you train an employee, you are expecting that employee to have a superior performance post-train, which will help the organization. Tech is no different. When you're investing in a tech, I'm investing in a productivity software. Let's say I'm working with Nippon and I'm using Nippon to enhance my recruiter's capability, etc. I am expecting that Nippon will ensure my recruiters will produce higher results, resulting in higher revenues. And that ROI conversation happens only when I'm investing in something where I'm paying from my pocket to get something done. So I think there is a productivity angle there also. In the manufacturing side, in the engineering side, you have machines and humans working together. Can you compare them? No. So you create a yardstick saying for machines, they have to keep improving their productivity. You have to keep innovating machines and make sure that they do more. Similarly, humans, you keep investing in them, train them, give them the tech, give them the tools, and make sure that they do more as well. So I think that's the last 2-3 years has been boiling down to these points.
Yeah. And with even we noticed, Vijay, with distributed teams, right? Wherein pre-COVID it was we can see heads in the office, right? But with distributed teams, we can hire people from any place, right? It can be global, it can be national, right? So where do you see the data analytics is helping the teams to measure the productivity from the distributed team standpoint? Whether it is data is helping somewhere or it is the still old traditional way of measuring it.
So Shiva, I think the point of having hybrid flexibility in workspaces, work from office, etc., has given a very interesting view on how productivity can be measured and why it's important. I think when we use technology tools, we allow our employees to make sure that they operate on the same platforms so that they have a common goal and they achieve superior outcomes. And it's not a point of view to be micromanaging them, or it's not that I want to find out what they're doing. I think the objective is to ensure that they all operate with the same amount of tools and tech so that they can perform better for the organization. And with those tools and tech like Nippon and many other products, etc., it becomes very critical to also get data and insights to see how you could help someone if they are not able to meet those standards, or if they are not able to go up, then you can train them and retrain them, etc. So I think personally for me, it's all about ensuring that everyone has an equal operating performance so that you don't have situations where few people do extremely well and there's a bunch of people who don't do well at all. We want to give the same platform to everyone so they operate the most optimally for them. Yes, it's not in the real world, you can't have everyone doing the same thing. They're not robots, they're humans, but as close as you can get to optimal performance is key.
Yeah. As a follow-up, Vijay, we have also seen that, with post-COVID, wherein the modern workplaces are kind of changing the way they work, we have seen there is a shift in the KPI change as well. The way the expectations have changed, right? So how does Quest Corp have you also changed the KPIs in that manner, or is it still the same?
So KPIs it should not be, I don't believe KPI should be a fixed element. It should have a tenure. Like for example, we do our performance management cycles once a year. And therefore, that's when the KPIs get revisited and reassured, etc. Because it's important for employees to pick up new skills. It's also important for employees to take up new responsibilities. And therefore, I don't think a KPI should ever be a standard element, right? KPIs and KRAs should be fluid, but it should not be so fluid that every day you change it. That also is not right. And you should have a structured program. You should know what an employee, because only then will the employees, like I was talking in my first point, I think, where the employee expectation and the organization expectations have to match. And KPIs and KRAs and similar things are what allows them to understand what the organization wants. And if they align their interest towards that based on their passion and their ability to work, that's a win-win. So I don't think so. KPI should be very fluidic, but at the same time, it should not be too rigid as well. It should be basis contextually to the market, to the job they do, and to the expected outcomes they have.
Yeah, and that's what we have also seen, Vijay, with the HCL Tech, wherein we have got thousands of projects and customers. We have got the projects with for different. We have got the design, engineering, support, and all. So what we have also created, right, with this framework of workplace analytics, we have also created some KPIs, which is helping the way the team works, right. Those are not depend on a particular set of what the outcome is, but we are also measuring a lot of small things like how is the communication, how is the behavior, whether the team has been taking certain initiatives or not. And that is overall changing a kind of cumulative kind of KPI that is helping the manager to understand the team better. And I think that is...
All cannot be math.
Yeah,
there is
correct.
There is emotion, there is a decision making, it comes out of experience and comes out of contextual conversations, etc. So I strongly believe what you're saying is very important. That it cannot just be you hit a target and you achieve it and you're done. No, it's about how do you improve your communication, your softer skills, your harder skills, your ability to try new things. I had done a very interesting article on LinkedIn with a professor from XLRI on how do you define loyalty. So many people just think in their head that if you stay in an organization for a long time, that means you're loyal. Yes, of course, without a doubt. But loyalty does not necessarily mean tenure. Loyalty could also mean going the extra mile. Loyalty could also mean doing something differently than what you were doing earlier, and in the interest of the organization. So I think it's not just hard targets; it's the softer aspects which become important.
Yeah. And one more thing, Vijay, we have noticed that, with this changing world, right? So we have seen this productivity, every organization or even companies or the vendors like us. For us, productivity is still in that conceptual stage wherein we are still evolving, right? Wherein it's not based on a single parameter. We evaluate productivity from a different standpoint. Maybe some other competition or a customer is taking it from a different way. So we also see that I think in the coming years, because it just started off, it was there in manufacturing, it was there in some of those industries, but knowledge workers space, people analytics was missing for the long time. I think organizations have started thinking about it. Going forward, they'll be evolved. There'll be a set standard around it, right? We measure through maybe number of hours. Somebody's talking about engagement. Somebody's saying that maybe the behavior is the key. But I think it is based the team that they are working on, and it will evolve from there.
So I think I'll give a simple example where if you want to hire someone, and let's say two hiring managers of the same level want to hire a resource, two of them are very different in the way they approach, the way they interview. And I think evolution will happen in the way you look at productivity, KRAs, people performances, etc. So completely with you. And it's a journey that you have to take. And
one more example, Vijay, here, with respect to staff augmenting, we have seen that before the data was there, right? So when the iteration happens, right, the general feedback is a manager or an HR function reaches out to the manager to get the feedback, right, before releasing the employee. And that is the only way they can get a feedback. With data in place in the organization, so HR has got the real time. And maybe some employees are good for the organization. They don't want to leave them, right? It requires a lot of effort to have that loyalty, what you mentioned, and to get those right candidates.
It helps bring down attrition. It helps identify the core strength of the employee. It does a lot of things.
Yeah. And we always believe that data is not about numbers. It's about how we are helping the employees to work better, fostering different workflows, and all those things are there. Those things are critical for the organization.
I agree with you. Completely agree with you.
Yeah. So thank you, Vijay, for sharing your valuable insights today. And we have learned how the data is shaping the way we work, enhancing productivity, efficiencies. And we look forward for further sessions with you in going forward. And thanks again for joining. And here's to your future wherein data can be leveraged in a much better way.
Thank you, Shiva. Thank you so much, and all the very best. I think it's important what you do, and it's important what we can add value to the ecosystem around us. So thank you so much for inviting me here. It was an absolute pleasure. All the very best.